everybody, welcome to the online interview of the Media Expert. Very excited of our guest today, Mr. David Ching, CEO of Ong Ong. Welcome to the Media Expert, David.
Good morning, Mauro. Thank you for inviting us. I am very pleased to be here and to be able to speak to you.
Good, good. So Ong Ong is a multi-service consultancy firm offering design, engineering, and project management. The company has 12 offices in a key Asian city with over 600 employees, but over 150 just in Vietnam. So they must be very busy in this country. David will be sharing with us a bit of his experience into this period, but generally speaking, into his ability on hospitality and how busy the company is for the hospitality projects. So let's start from the first question and first part, how you guys are doing, your client, and generally speaking, what you're making the best out of this period.
Okay, this is our first day back in the office. Despite that 3 weeks of being away, we actually been working very hard. There is no perceptible drop really in our clients' requirements in terms of the work rate. We did come back to the office, some of us, because we had to work really. And interestingly, I don't see any difference in terms of the plans for the clients, because for us, we have many projects in the pipeline. For the hotel in the hospitality, I'm actually concerned about my manpower being able to cope with the workload. And like today, I have to actually reconsider whether I should take on new jobs because we have been offered new hotels. One, for instance, is an island, which is something new. And I suppose Vietnam is in a unique situation here. We are growing, of course, unlike the more developed countries. And despite the fact of concerns about overbuilding in some sectors of the hospitality, be it service apartments that works as resorts, there doesn't seem to be any change in the plans of our investors. And they are not small players, they are big players. So I'm very positive actually, despite all this that's happening in Vietnam.
Excellent. Thank you, David. It's great to know, great to have such an energetic impact on the first question. Let's have a look to the second one, which is actually the recovery. Now, we understand that from you, this period was still very active and very busy. But as we know, a lot of hotel closed down, a lot of projects are somehow delayed. What is your take into the recovery of this crisis?
Traditionally, we look at whether it's V-shape, U or L, right, or W. I would say it's almost impossible to be a V. Not because of the inability of the hotel industry or the hospitality industry to cope with the recovery, but because travel. We can't fly. Nobody can come in. So unless these restrictions are removed or changed or there's something made to it, impossible. I would think most likely a U-shaped recovery is going to happen, not at L, because there is, of course, you'll be mindful there's a local market that is growing very steadily, okay? And very much like China, very soon a lot of businesses will be dependent on the locals. So if the investors, the developers, focuses more on the locals, I think whatever losses made from foreign travelers could be covered up by the locals. So I'm more likely to see a U-shaped recovery. And L-shape is, no, that's not going to happen. I think it's much better than that. But then again, having said that, maybe a W, because another epidemic or pandemic, then we go through the roller coaster again. But all in all, it's like a swing but still gradually going up. I think what's important right now is that for us, for hospitality people, is going to be how the government reacts to what happens outside. See, because that's beyond their control. But the steps that the government has taken has been really good. They were very proactive. Like today, for instance, right? Although we can get back to almost normal lives, but the normal precautions are still in place. So a lot is dependent on things that the authorities are not being able to control. But having said, for us, in this design time, we need time to build, we need time to design. So that gives us some breathing space to plan. How do we cope with these new people? Because I have been in this business of hospitality for many years. I was a director of Jurong Bird Park in Singapore. So we've changed, we've seen the different visitors from different countries. At one stage, you have a lot of Indian nationals coming in. Another stage, you see many people from the Middle East. And then we see the Chinese, we see the Koreans, and they seem to come in waves. Maybe this time you see the Sri Lankans, but next year we see another batch of people. So there seems to be that wave of kinds of visitors from different countries. So from what I get, from my experience, it's very interesting because Vietnam is like maybe, I would say lagging, but it is following a certain curve, right? So if I take example of Singapore, for instance, or Malaysia, I think very likely that's going to happen. Meaning to say that now we see a lot of Chinese and Russians for summer in Vietnam. But it may be very likely soon we may see the Indians who might be coming. Because they may be looking for a place and say, okay, maybe Vietnam is relatively safe from the pandemic. So maybe you go to a place like Vietnam, it's a bit more exotic. And I'm actually quite positive. I would say more positive if I'd been in Singapore or Malaysia or some other countries. Because we are like a bit of a safe haven. You know? So
Yes,
maybe that's why. Sorry?
Yes, I totally agree with safe haven, and it's good to know. So it's you see this hospitality recovering not just in a way of calling back the old groups of Chinese, Russian, but also you see as hospitality something that is able then to keep evolving and reaching different types of source, and therefore be able to be cured fast.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
So talking about the tourism industry and the behavior and the change, how people will change the way to travel. What do you think would be the impact into the way that people will change and therefore the design into the new hotel? Do you think your client will ask you to design in a different way, or the market will be moved to ask the design to be changed to accommodate this new type of traveler if they do exist?
Okay, in terms of design, there will be changes. A savvy owner will now think of spreading their developments. Meaning to say that maybe you have to really physically separate spaces, right? So let's say they deal a lot with incentive groups, or they deal a lot with groups that come in for big dinners, or wedding groups, right? I mean, there are a lot of mixed, especially in hotels. So they might want to decide, okay, for weddings and all that, we might have to put a certain place away from my guests from China or from Korea. And they may even say, look, maybe we put certain nationality or certain groups in certain blocks rather than all mixed up. Because some may say, look, do you provide such facilities? Are we able to be with ourselves? Or the government may say, look, maybe we have to do that. And of course, behind all this, telecommunications will be king. Without this, we cannot speak. And if you are stuck, what happens? You need to communicate within your room, right? So that will be really, really key. I mean, if I'm going to be a traveler, my first question will be, have you got good Wi-Fi? Is it 24/7? Is there any backup? I think that's even more critical than anything else, because communication is the key. So that will change the design. How many points we have, how access, and we have to be, I think Vietnam is also very special in the sense that we can get Wi-Fi almost everywhere. So we have a head start. You know, unlike even more developed countries. I mean, I go back to Europe, and I can't find Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi in many places. So we have got a head start. So I think in terms of design, these things will be necessary. And of course, charge points, you know, free power points, and all those things, little details. So when visitors get to know, they say, hey, if I go to Vietnam, no worries. You know, I'll be able to contact you. whether it's business or it's whether for leisure, we'll be in touch. I think that is key. So in terms of design, how we look at it, social distancing is here to stay. I mean, even airlines are talking about social distancing. So it's here to stay. We have no choice. So maybe planning of place.
Exactly. More privacy, more ability to deliver on request, yes. Privacy to the clients. Okay, thank you very much, David. I think you made a lot of good points that will let our developer and our audience to think. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully we'll have you in our next webinar or event when the whole event space will be reopened again. Thank you, and well done for having reopened the office with the full people and to actually try to employ more people and giving a push up to all of this economy. Thank you, David. Thank you very much for joining us.